Know your Lord. We learn about his names and his attributes. Know your Lord. What he approves and disapproves. Know your Lord. Believe in all things that he has brought forth. Know his oneness, Lord.
Know Your Lord, part of the Right Belief series by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, right here on Sunnahfollowers. Being taught by Ustada Layla Nash-Sheba as she lays down the foundations to get you together. Learn about your Lord. Know your Lord. Streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnahfollowers. Assalamu alaikum. Get to know your Lord. First part of the Right Belief series by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. This dynamic literary work of art's main goal is to revive an understanding the names and attributes of Allah. And understanding the name and attributes of Allah will elevate our faith, strengthen us, and keep us steadfast. This wonderful book is now available in an audiobook format and can be found free of charge on YouTube, channel Kareem Abu Zaid. Get to know your Lord. You have nothing to lose.
Alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. I want to welcome everybody to our first series on Aqidah. And we're basing our series on the book written by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid entitled Know Your Lord. And for those of you who are new, who have not yet purchased the book, please make sure you go to Amazon.com. The book is available for $19.99. Please order this book and also order the Maqasidic Tafsir Volume 1, because that's the other class of his book that I'm teaching here at Sunnahfollowers. Inshallah, we're going to try to go through the whole series of the Maqasid Tafsir. And the last time we met for this class, we spoke about how everything begins with and ends with Tawheed. And we have to understand the meaning of this word when we hear it. You don't have to learn Arabic in order to be a Muslim, but there are certain Arabic terms that we should all be acquainted with. Who can tell me, what does the term Tawheed mean? What does Tawheed mean in English? Can anyone tell me?
The belief system.
It means what? Who is that?
Your belief system.
Okay, does Tawheed mean your belief system? What do you guys think about her answer?
Oneness of Allah.
Okay.
Oneness of Allah.
Which answer is correct? Does it mean the belief system or does it mean the oneness of Allah?
Oneness of Allah.
Okay, yes, Tawheed refers to the oneness of Allah. Which Arabic term refers to our belief system? What's the Arabic word we use for the belief system? Anyone know?
Aqidah.
Exactly, Aqidah. Aqidah refers to what our belief system is. Tawheed refers to the divinity of Allah. The divinity of Allah, how Allah is one and the only one worthy of worship. That's Tawheed. And what does the Arabic term Islam mean? Who can tell us that? What does the Arabic term Islam mean? Anybody knows what Islam means in English? What is the meaning of the word Islam?
Total submission to the will of Allah.
Okay, what do y'all think about that answer? Okay, somebody else typed it means peace. Okay, which answer is correct? Does it mean peace? Go ahead. Somebody with a different answer, go ahead. Okay, Islam does not mean peace. That's not the word for peace. Okay, Islam means total submission to Allah. Total submission to Allah.
Don't have something.
Fahmy?
Mhm.
Okay, and who can tell us what does the word Muslim mean? What does the word Muslim mean?
One who commits themselves totally to the commands of Allah.
Okay, one who submits himself to Allah. So when we say that we are Muslims, what are we saying? I am a person who submits myself to Allah. I live my life in submission, in total submission. That's Islam. I am one who submits to Allah. That's Muslim. And I live my life in total submission to him. That's Islam. That's why Islam is not just a religion, it's a way of life. And in order to assure that I am in complete submission to Allah, I am always checking my aqidah. What does that mean? I always check my belief system to assure that it is in sync with what Allah commands me to believe. Okay? And I'm always checking myself to assure myself that I base everything in life on Tawheed, on the divinity and the oneness of Allah. Does everybody understand that? That is our purpose. That's what we were created to do as human beings. To live each day of our life recognizing the divinity, the oneness. The only one worthy of worship is Allah. That's Tawheed. And we're going to submit ourselves, that's Muslim, totally to what Allah says and commands. That's Islam. And we assure that our aqidah is in accordance to what he dictates to us. That's belief system. A lot of us have lost this. A lot of us today don't understand this. If we truly understand that this on number one, we wouldn't go around trying to change the religion. What's happening today? So many Muslims are trying to change the religion of Allah. They're trying to change and introduce into this way of life things that Allah didn't introduce, like worshiping the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't worship the Prophet Muhammad. We follow him. We follow him and we obey him, but we don't worship him. But we have a lot of Muslims today trying to introduce worship of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam so they can compete with the non-believers as to how the non-believers worship Jesus. This is haram. This is introducing something else into this way of life that Allah didn't introduce, that he commanded us not to do, that even the prophet said before he died, do not do to me what they did to my brother Jesus by worshiping me, putting me on a level greater than what I am. But we have Muslims today trying to do that. Okay. So is our aqidah correct? No. 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 We say that we are upon Tawheed. We are upon the divinity, the oneness of Allah. Yet, are we really upon the Tawheed? We're trying to not only introduce things into this religion that Allah didn't sanction for us to do, We're trying to change Allah's laws too. We think that we can come up with laws better than Allah. We think that we're even better than the companions. And we're better than the early generations, who Allah himself says is much better than us. But we think that we can twist Allah's laws, tweak them here and tweak them there, for our benefit, for society's benefit. This is a sacrilege. That's not Tawheed. That's not recognizing the divinity and the oneness of Allah. Okay? We're trying to make things haram or unlawful that Allah didn't make unlawful, when Allah says only He has that authority. Because we don't understand something or we don't like something, we're going to say it's haram. This is a big problem with men today, with the laws and rules and oppressive actions they're imposing upon women. You got women thinking it's haram to be beautiful. You got women thinking that they're a prostitute because they go out the house and take pride in their appearance. You got women thinking that they going to hell because they try to make themselves presentable for Allah. Is that Tawheed? Okay. So this subject is important. We have to understand as Muslims that if your aqidah or your belief system is not correct, none of your good deeds will be accepted. That's why Allah says anyone who dies upon a way other than Islam, it will never be accepted of him. All their good deeds are nothing but a mirage. So a lot of the new shahadas ask me, well, Sister Layla, what about the good kafirs? What do you mean a good kafir? That's an oxymoron. If they were a good kafir, they wouldn't be a kafir. But what about the good unbelievers, the good non-Muslims? Those non-Muslims that live their lives following what they think is their book of truth. They stay away from drinking and fornicating, and they give in charity and help the orphans and do that Mother Teresa thing. What about them? Well, for those so-called, quote, good non-believers, unquote, out of Allah's mercy, He's made this world their paradise. Allah rewards them for whatever good they do in this world. But once Allah has their soul removed, that's it. They go straight to hell. They do not collect $200. They do not pass go. They go straight to the hellfire. That's what Allah says. That's the reality, because any other way other than total, not half, but total submission to Him is not accepted. That's Islam. And that's something that we Muslims need to think about. Total submission. Are we totally in submission to Allah? Or are we associating partners with Him? We say that we are Muslims. We're a person that submits to Him, but we pick and choose what parts of His religion and what laws of His to submit to. Is that total submission? Big questions. And only you and I can answer those questions individually for ourselves. So that's why it's important to get to know your Lord. That's why everything begins with and ends with Tawheed. Okay? And we've been speaking here about one of the early scholars. He lived in a time and era just like what we're living in today. His name was Ibn Taymiyyah. Okay? Ibn Taymiyyah lived during war times when Islam was spreading throughout the world. The Muslims were fighting against the Mongols. Also the Shiites. The Shiites are always committing what they do today, instigating. The Shiites always have been. always will be instigators because their belief system is not correct. Okay? They think that they have to instigate fitna in order to wake up who they think is the Mahdi in some cave somewhere asleep. That's how twisted they are. Okay? The Shiites were all involved with the fitna back then. They were instigating between the Mongols and the people of the Sunnah, just like today. Cowardly run off. Then once the fitna begins, they run off like the cowards they've always been. Like today, drop a bomb here, drop a bomb there, just to stir up the fitna so everybody can think that they're upon Sirat al-Mustaqim. And then when the fitna escalates, they cowardly run away. Same stuff. So we talked about Ibn Taymiyyah. He was one of the early scholars. He studied underneath Imam Hanbal. And that Imam Hanbal was one of his teachers. And by the way, just to let you brothers know, Ibn Taymiyyah also had several female teachers. Oh yeah, women have always been teaching Islam since Aisha, radiallahu anha. He also had several women teachers too. Okay? But Ibn Taymiyyah, in his era, it was just like today. You had the Shiites stirring up trouble, dipping in the politics of the world, creating more chaos to make people think they're helping when they're really hindering. Then you had the non-believers, the Mongols, and then you had the Muslims of the Sunnah. But what were the people who claim to be of the Sunnah suffering with? The same thing like today. They were blindly following. The Muslims during his era who called themselves people of the Sunnah, instead of them practicing a religion and following the example of the Prophet with the understanding of those companions, they were blindly following the four madhabs. They were blindly following the madhabs, the four imams, not the four imams, but the students of the imams. Okay? So, what Ibn Taymiyyah did was he tried to call the Muslims. He also participated in the battles. Oh yeah, this was the war. This was World War. He fought, against the Mongols. And he also tried to call the people, and he fought against the Shiites. He warned against the Shiites. He told the Muslims, stay out of the affair. Don't trust these people. We can never trust the Shiites because the Shiites have their own political agenda. Because they've changed the Quran, because they slander the companions, because they don't accept the hadiths of the Prophet. Ibn Taymiyyah told we can never trust these people. There's nothing good from them. How can there be any good in someone who curses the Prophet Muhammad's family, his wife, his companions, his best friend? Okay? So Ibn Taymiyyah was busy, not only fighting against the Mongols, but also calling the people away from those Shiites, telling them don't get involved in their fitna. And he was trying to call the Muslims back away from blindly following others. So they were at wartime, just like today. War. So he said we need to do what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to do during war times. The Prophet said, fall back upon Tawheed. So that's when Ibn Taymiyyah and his student Ibn Qayyim, they tried to call the Muslims back to La ilaha illallah, Tawheed. He said all this political crap that y'all involved in, all this theology that y'all involved in, all this societal crap, We got to get back to the basics. We have to develop the understanding of this deen that those original companions had. But he was dealing with a different breed of people. He said, but in order to call you back to Tawheed, we're going to have to do it have a different type of methodology to do this. Because we're dealing with people who call themselves Muslims, like the Shiites, who are really not Muslim, because their belief system is totally against what the prophet came with. So we got to learn how to call the people back from that. We have to use a different technique for that. Then we're dealing with the Christians, the Romans, and all of them, those Christian countries who claim to believe in Allah. They believe in the divinity of Allah, but they don't believe that Allah is the only one worthy of worship. So we have to use a different methodology for them. And then we're dealing with the people who claim to be upon the traditional Islam, but they're blindly following the imams and scholars. So that's when he put together this system to try to give the correct understanding of Islam to the masses. And he focused on Tawheed. And that's what we're speaking about. Ibn Taymiyyah was a fighter for the traditional Islam. He didn't blindly follow anyone, even though a lot of his stuff was from Imam Hanbal. He let it be known. He let it be known in his later years. He said, I'm letting y'all know, even though Imam Hanbal may have been one of my teachers, he said, I don't blindly follow no one. I don't blindly follow him. As even Imam Hanbal said, if I say something or I teach you something and it contradicts what those companions said, then disregard what I said. Okay? So Ibn Taymiyyah was a good man who spent his life trying to call the Muslims back to the traditional Islam with the understanding of the companions. And some people refer to him as the father of Salafism. Just to let you guys know, I'm giving y'all some history on Ibn Taymiyyah, okay? A lot of these people don't know anything about Ibn Taymiyyah. They use his name all the time and don't know nothing about him. You know, some people refer to him as the father of Salafism because he called the people back to the understanding of those original companions, not the understanding of Mathabs or Shiites and that other crap. Okay? So this is what we've been speaking about. And we should follow his example today. That's what I'm doing. My teachings here at Sunnahfollowers. At Sunnahfollowers, we focus on Tawheed, 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 Aqidah. Because if you had the correct understanding of Allah and your purpose, then you would change yourself. And when you change yourself, then Allah would uplift his punishment to us all. Okay? And that's what Ibn Taymiyyah advocated too. He would tell the people, we got to look at ourselves, change the condition of ourselves so Allah can change the condition of us collectively. Okay? But we're not going to change until we get that belief system together. If your belief system ain't correct, nothing else is accepted from us. So we've been speaking about the benefits of having true belief and understanding of the divinity of Allah. And let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen. And I did post up the pages. We're going to complete this chapter, which is chapter 4 of the book. We're going to complete this chapter today. I'm going to take you all the way to pages 77 of the book, which ends this chapter. Let's see, speaking about more benefits of knowing your Lord. Basically, the benefits of Tawheed. Let's put this down and make it larger. Don't worry here. How do I make it larger again? I forgot. Boy, my mind just went crazy. Okay, you guys, oh, that's how you do it. Take that down. Okay, here we go. All right. One of the benefits of having true belief in the divinity of Allah is that it helps you to look at sins correctly. Listen to what Ibn Taymiyyah said when he spoke about the different types of sin. He said a person who is sound and correct in his belief in Allah, who commits minor sins, is better than a person who has only the sin of association and no other. In other words, the worst sin that any of us can commit is to associate partners with Allah. And a lot of you will say, oh, associating partners with Allah, I don't do that. I don't worship idols. No. How many of us love our children more than we do Allah? To the point that your son, your 16-year-old son comes home and tells you that, and he's a dope dealer. He's selling drugs from out of your house. Instead of you putting him out of your house, telling him that he got to leave, you're going to allow him to stay in your home and sell drugs, but you're going to set boundaries, just set boundaries? No, this is loving him more than Allah. Some of us love our money more than Allah, our property more than Allah, our wives, our children, our husbands more than Allah. Your husband comes home and tells you he doesn't want you to wear hijab anymore. So you stop wearing hijab to please him. When your life should be spent pleasing Allah, not him. We only please our husband in the things that Allah commanded us to please him in. We don't please our husband over Allah. So again, what Ibn Taymiyyah is saying here, a person that does lesser sins than that is better than a person who associates partners with Allah. That your son who sells drugs is better than you because you have made your son your master. And that's one of the signs of the last hour. The children will be authorities over the parents. Now, do you understand that hadith? Your son is a dope dealer, but you worse than him because you've made him your master. Okay? You're disobeying your law for him. How many of us commit sin like that? If you understood what La ilaha illallah meant, if you understood that only Allah is worthy of worship, you wouldn't make that mistake. You wouldn't let your son be your master, your daughter be your master, your husband your master, your money your master. This is the type of stuff that Ibn Taymiyyah was calling the people back to during the times of warfare that they were facing against the Mongolians, against the Shiites, and all the others, the Christians and all them other groups. Also, he said Tawheed that has with it lies is better than associating partners with a law that has with it truth. In other words, again, the worst sin that anyone can commit is to put something equal or above Allah. As his student Ibn Qayyim said, the greater the Tawheed that you have in your heart, the greater your belief in Allah is and your worship of him is, the stronger you become. And the stronger you become, the greater the forgiveness of Allah is upon you. So whoever meets Allah and has not ever associated partners with him, all his sins will be forgiven, all of them, whatever they may be. And Allah will not punish that person because of them. So you can be a person that committed association, and that's all you did was just love money. You can be a person that loved money more than you did Allah. And that's the only sin you did. That one sin is going to cause you to be in hell forever, as opposed to a person that didn't associate partners with Allah, but sold drugs, never prayed, never gave in charity. That person, the simple fact that that person never associated partners with Allah, Allah will forgive him, but he ain't going to forgive you. This is a powerful statement. And there are so many hadiths. Again, like I told you guys yesterday, everything that Ibn Taymiyyah said and Ibn Qayyim, they based it all on hadiths, evidence from the Quran and from the authentic Sunnah. So as Ibn Qayyim said, the Muslims, their sins are the sins of a person who truly believes in Allah. And that belief in Allah will erase whatever traces of sin that they have totally. And this is something that's powerful. A lot of people ask the question, why is it that there will be no Christians in paradise? It's simple. Why should there be when they associated partners with Allah? They believe that Jesus was him. So it don't matter what other deeds they did the ultimate worst thing. The only people deserving of paradise are those who never associated anything or anyone with him. Does everybody understand that? So that's why there'll be no Christians, there will be no Jews, there will be no other way, as Allah says in the Quran. There will be no way other than the way of Islam in paradise. Total submission to him. Allah will forgive any other sin but that. And where's the dalil? Like I said, Ibn Taymiyyah and his student Ibn Qayyim, they weren't like these brothers today. There's a lot of men and women today who blindly follow them. All they talk, you listen to their lectures, all they say is Ibn Taymiyyah said this, Ibn Taymiyyah said that. Okay. They give no evidence. Well, I'm different. I'm going to tell you what Ibn Taymiyyah said and what Ibn al-Qayyim said, and I'm going to give you what they based it on. They based those statements that I just made on this verse right here. Allah says, in the interpretation of the meaning, indeed, Allah does not forgive association with him, but he forgives whatever is less than that to whomever he wills. And he who associates others with Allah has certainly fabricated a tremendous sin. So that's why there'll be no Christians in paradise. That's why there'll be no Jews in paradise. That's why there'll be no Buddhists, no Hindus, or anybody else, just Muslims. And that's why I ask you guys, what's the meaning of Muslim? Muslim is a word that means a person who submits to Allah. The people of paradise are only those who submit to Allah. And this is what Ibn Taymiyyah did while they were dealing with the war, dealing with the fitna of the Shiites and all this other stuff. He didn't get involved in the politics. We Muslims got to stop getting involved in the politics of the world. Because man has his own agenda, just like the Shiites today got their own agenda. They think they waking up somebody in a cave. Just like America's got its agenda. Israel's got its agenda. We don't get involved in that because, like Allah said, man can plot and man can plan, but Allah is the best of plotters and the best of planners. And like Allah says, nothing happens unless He wills it. You can plot and plan to take over the entire creation, but you won't be able to lift a finger unless Allah wills it. And this is what Ibn Taymiyyah was teaching the people in his time. Y'all got to stop all that political crap, you guys. We have to stop all that emotional crap. We're so emotionally deranged. We're so emotionally deluded that we think that we can form alliances with the enemies of the prophet's companions, the enemies of the prophet's family. We're so weak. We're so emotional that we think that we can trust these people when these people have proven through after the death of the prophet they can never be trusted. We have to get over that emotionalism. Stay out of the politics. I tell y'all, stop watching TV. Turn off the television. Turn off the news. Stop watching those pictures on social media because all it's doing is making you emotionally deranged in a bad way. And instead, turn back to Allah. Learn what Tawheed is. Like the prophet said, fall back on Tawheed. And that's what Ibn Taymiyyah was saying too. Talk to people too. Fall back on Tawheed. So there will be no non-believers in paradise. Why? Because the benefit of lesser good is nullified by the tremendous injustice of associating partners with Allah. And by the way, those Shiites that some of you are thinking are heroes, they also associate partners with Allah. They worship Ali. They worship Ali. Why would you think that you can sit down with them? We don't sit down with people like that who slander the prophet's family and companions and worship some and think that anything good is going to come out of that. That's an oxymoron. That's an oxymoron. Especially when you look at the history of Islam and what these Shiites have been doing ever since. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning on the day when the people will see the angels. No good news will there be for the unbelievers and the sinners and the criminals. And the angels will say to them, all kinds of good news are forbidden from you. You will not be allowed to enter paradise. Just those who said, La ilaha illallah, and acted upon it. And we shall turn to whatever deeds you sinful people did. And we shall make such deeds as scattered floating particles of dust. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah based those statements on, and his student, Ibn Qayyim. So, in times of hardship, and times of trial, and times of tests, like the prophet said, what will sustain the believers is Tawheed. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah will be what sustains us. So instead of us putting our 2 cents into the politics of the world, remember Allah is in control. Not man, not Israel, not the Zionists, just like the Mongols were not in control during Ibn Taymiyyah's time. The Shiites, they never in control. They always want to be. They always try to be. They always brag and boast. That's the nature of the Persians. They were always prideful people. They want you to think they're in control, but they're not. They're not. Allah is the one in control. Okay? Stay out of the politics. Fall back upon Tawheed. Get your belief system together, Muslims. And again, Tawheed is the key to paradise. Listen to what Ibn Qayyim said. He said, Allah has made for every matter a key to open it. He made purification the key of the prayers. In the same way, the key of Hajj is to enter the state of Ihram. And the key of piety is to speak the truth. And the key of paradise is to believe in the oneness of Allah. Again, do you believe in Allah's oneness? Do you? We say we do, but look at your life. Remember, as our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, belief is in the heart, and whatever is in the heart will show through your actions. You protesting against the qadr of Allah? That's not from Islam. Throughout the history of Islam, you ain't even during the time of Ibn Taymiyyah, you ain't gonna see no Muslims protesting against the qadr of Allah. That's what the Kafirs do. The Romans, the Greeks, they've always protested. And protesting was invented by them, for those of you who don't know. Also, democracy was invented by them. Okay? They've always protested with signs and yelling and screaming. But we Muslims don't protest the qadr of Allah. Instead, we turn to Allah and we supplicate and we check ourselves and we try to reform ourselves. We try to turn back to Allah. We try to change the condition of ourselves to that which is pleasing to Allah. That's how we roll. That's how Ibn Taymiyyah and the Muslims of his time who believed rolled. Piety. The key to piety is the truth. The key to paradise is to believe La ilaha illallah. And that's why the Prophet said fall back on it in times of fitan. Again, without Tawheed, you can forget it. You can forget it. Listen to what Ibn al-Qayyim said. Indeed, Tawheed is the key to paradise's door. So whoever does not have a key with him, then its door will not open for him. Likewise is the case if you came with a key that has no teeth in it, you still won't be able to open the door. So it's all about falling back on our belief system. Muslims, get out of the politics of the world, because again, Allah is in control of this. All of this is going to play out the way Allah willed it, and you can't change it. And Allah told you this was going to happen. If you knew your deen, if you learned your religion, you would know that what's happening today was already foretold to us. And it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. This war is just going to continue to do as it's doing. It's going to keep spreading until the entire world is in it. This is the war against Islam. Until the next president of the United States gets those United Nations to sign an agreement to fight against all the Muslim countries, this is the beginning of it. Allah already told us this is going to play out. But he also, out of his mercy, told us what to do. Just like Ibn Taymiyyah, during his time, he told the Muslims the same thing. Allah said he was going to send war. Allah said whenever we deviate from the traditional Islam, there will be consequences. I will send war. But Allah told us what to do. Fall back on Tawheed. Okay? And also, a lot of people, Muslims too, want to say that the devil did it. That's what the Christians were good at saying. The devil is the cause of all the evil. Well, believe it or not, we got some Muslims who converted to Islam from Christianity, and they ended up adapting the Mu'tazila way of thinking, because the Mu'tazila, that set is the set that has the most sects that resemble the Christians in their belief. So there's a lot of Muslims that go around thinking that evil, they say that a good comes from Allah, but evil doesn't come from him, it comes from us. This is not true. The good and the evil come from Allah. Allah says in the Quran, whatever good befalls you comes from me as a reward of the good you've done. And whatever evil befalls you comes from me too, as a result of what you brought on yourself. And Ibn Taymiyyah had to warn the people and teach the people Tawheed. He told them that Shaitan, the devils, they have no authority over the hearts of the people who truly believe in Allah. All your personal jinn can do is whisper to you. All he can do, because he hovers around in your heart. He sees that you're anxious, you're weak in your faith. So he'll whisper to you to lose hope. He'll whisper to you to transgress the limits of Allah, but you don't have to listen to him. You have the power to not listen. You have the power to not yield. Also, Ibn Taymiyyah said, when Tawheed becomes manifest within you, the devils will run away from you. Your personal jinn will sit down in a corner, guys. You can learn to control or tame your soul. You can tame your soul and you can control that personal jinn by making them sit down in a corner of your heart and be quiet. But the only way you can do that is by strengthening your belief in Allah. Most of us don't have that belief in him. We don't even believe in his decree. We don't believe that all the power, all the might comes from him. We don't believe that the good and evil come from him. We don't believe that nothing happens unless he wills it. Until we believe these things, you don't have Tawheed in your heart. So that's why your personal jinn and the other jinns can control you, can manipulate you. They can't really control you. They can whisper to you and you follow them. Also, as Ibn Qayyim said, the enemy of Allah came to know that Allah does not allow him to gain the mastery over the people of Tawheed. And what did Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim base this on? They based this on what Allah says. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. Iblis said, by your might, Allah, I will mislead them all, except among them who are your sincere servants. So this verse of the Quran is the evidence that the evil jinn, the devils, have no power, no authority over the people of Tawheed. Also, Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, and when guidance comes to you from me, whoever follows my guidance, there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. Indeed, there is for Shaitan no authority whatsoever over those who have belief in Allah. So again, as you guys can see, you hear a lot of these brothers and sisters today talking about Ibn Taymiyyah and his works. They quote him all the time, but they don't know anything about Ibn Taymiyyah. How do I know about Ibn Taymiyyah? This is a question somebody asked. First of all, I was born and raised Muslim and learned about Ibn Taymiyyah years ago when I was a kid. But I learned even more about Ibn Taymiyyah because my personal teacher, who is a true scholar of this ulama, Abu Atayib, that's my teacher. My other teachers died. The only one I got left is Abu Atayib, and he's old now. May Allah keep him living, because when he's gone, it's going to be a loss for me and many others. He taught me about Ibn Taymiyyah. My teachings are all based on Ibn Taymiyyah. I teach all of his works here and always have. Because my teacher, his teacher, his teacher, His teacher learned from Ibn Taymiyyah. If I were to do an ijazah thing, Ibn Taymiyyah is in my ijazah, okay? And my teacher, Abu Atiyah, wrote a book on him. The book is in Arabic, but my teacher's written books on Ibn Taymiyyah. I use Ibn Taymiyyah's teachings, always have. Even though I don't do like these brothers today, Ibn Taymiyyah this, Ibn Taymiyyah that, Ibn. No. Everything that Ibn Taymiyyah taught was based on Quran and Sunnah. He didn't blindly follow anyone. He never spoke about this deen without backing up what he said with clear evidence from the hadith or from the Quran. The brothers today that use his name all the time, they not doing this. They just reading his books out loud to you. But where's the evidence? Where's the this? Where's the hadith? Where? They're not doing like I'm doing. He based it on this. He based it on that. He based it on this. Clear verses. That's the way Ibn Taymiyyah taught. That's the way I teach. That's the way all of us should teach. Based on what Allah said, what the Prophet said, with that understanding of the companions, not a mathab, not anyone else. Okay, not an imam, not a sheikh. Okay. So, for those of us who truly do understand what belief in Allah entails, it becomes the best way to invite others to Allah. And that's what Ibn Taymiyyah did. He spent his entire life calling the Muslims back to the true Tawheed with the understanding of the companions. He spent his entire life calling the true Muslims away from Shiites, because the Shiites were always mixed up in the affairs of the world, instigating, creating problems, because they're so stupid, they think that they got to wake somebody up in a cave so they can get salvation. So the statement, La ilaha illallah, which means there's no one worthy of worship except Allah, that's Tawheed. That's Tawheed. And unless you truly believe that and understand that, you're not a true believer. As Ibn al-Qayyim, who was Ibn Taymiyyah's student, said, the earth and the heavens were founded. The creation was created. And by way of it, Allah sent the messengers and revealed his laws. And because of it, the scales were erected and the registers were set up. And the sukh of paradise and the fire came to arise. And by way of this statement, the creation was divided into either you are a believer or an unbeliever. There's only two groups of people. Either you are a believer or you are an unbeliever. There ain't no other way. Either you are a good person or a bad person. There is no third type. So it's all about La ilaha illallah. That's the foundation of our existence. That's the foundation of everything, of the creation. That's why we say, that's why Ibn Taymiyyah said, that's why y'all have always heard me say, everything begins with, everything ends with Tawheed.